Welcome back to Small Business Accelerate. We've been taking the 4 steps to small business growth. We started by deeply looking at our current market, evaluating and understanding our value propositions, and building a strategy for which market segments do we want to build a sales strategy around. We designed the sales strategy and we linked it then to our operation and our outreach pieces. We talked about how that works with our budgets, how that works with our sales channels. Then we are in the final piece, defining the growth plan. This is taking all of our learning and moving it forward into goals and a plan. Today we're going to discuss about building a growth roadmap. And there you are. You're at that point in the growth plan to take your goals and the plan you defined in the previous session and build the roadmap to act on it. So before we move on to the roadmap, let's talk a little bit about what is the goal you defined. What made the most sense for you to be able to achieve what you want for your business? You may have decided on a very large macro goal or a smaller set of goals. So you could practice the process of defining milestones and putting together a critical path. Remember, the critical path are the steps that you must take. Other steps are required, but if you don't do the critical path, everything falls apart. What did you learn about what are the key milestones to measure progress and the critical path? Then what did you think about when you started defining risks associated with those milestones and critical path steps? Which ones are you in control of, that you can be proactive against, and which are the ones that you must have your partners or the market take care of? That's a little bit more difficult to control. And finally, no doubt, partnerships and collaborations came to your mind to address risk and speed your accomplishment of milestones, reducing the chances that your critical path items will slip. Who should you partner with? Why? Well, this is very important because we're going to now take those data and build a roadmap. Who can help me get my process and my goals for growth done? That's the question we're really asking. The roadmap tells us how we control things, but we must have others work with us. So, tools that are needed. Well, we need a list of steps and a critical path along with interim and final milestones. This is all linked to a SMART goal system. Again, things that are specific, things that are measurable, things that are achievable, things that are results focused, and things that are time bound. We don't wander through life. We are on a meaningful, specific journey. We noted our risks and our mitigation strategies, things we can control, but also the fact that we may need partnerships to mitigate those risks. The next piece we need is to identify those collaborations, deals, the partnerships, formal and informal, that are necessary to achieve our milestones and reduce our risk. We may have looked at our budgets and realized, gosh, we don't have enough money. We need to go get a loan. We need an equity investment. We need to increase our revenue and turn some of the revenue back into reinvestment. You have to plan to invest to grow. So that's one of the key steps that we also began learning last. Finally, we have a timeline. We want to be motivated to accomplish something based on what the market opportunity is in a defined time. These are all the things we need. Now, to build a collaboration, I want to bring to your attention that agreement with a collaborator formally has 4 steps. Informally, it has 3. So let's talk about them. The first is sociological. This means we have an alignment of interest and goal. Generally, if we like to work and be with people, we'll work more with them. We'll work harder for them. So we must be aligned on the goals, that it's going to be a mutual interest. Next, financial. Yes, it involves trade of capital. We have to have an incentive plan that motivates the partner to work with you and you to recognize the success of the partner's work. So this exchange needs to be both acceptable and mutually beneficial. Third, this links to an operational strategy. This is who has which responsibilities. This is the plan we're going to go on, and a timeline. If we do not accomplish those goals in the timeline, what are the consequences? How do we basically fix it when it's messed up? And what are the consequences if we choose not to fix things? And then finally, for formal relationships, we move into the legal side. This is an actual agreement, memorializing these elements, sociological, financial, and operational activities, into a legal agreement that is signed. Now, for informal relationships, such as mentors and advisors, you may only have these but even if you're ever exchanging monies with other groups, a legal relationship is going to be very important to protect you and to protect them. So view solving collaborations and funding needs, which often have to have all four components, is the process to secure agreement through these four levels of engagement. This is how we develop and we measure a collaboration. Now, we use a semaphore tool in our road mapping process, red light, yellow light, green light. We're learning again in Sesame Street that these colors have meaning. Green lights are awesome. We love it because we have agreement at the sociological, financial, operational, and legal levels. It's all sealed up. We know what we need to do, we know who's responsible, and we have a timeline. Go. That's where it is. Yellow is slightly different. It's in the middle. We may have agreement on some of these four elements, but we have not completely inked the deal, or we don't have all the incentives in place. We may have a plan, but not the responsibilities sent out. We may only have a term sheet for financing, a term sheet for a collaborator, or an offer letter to a new employee, but it has not been agreed on. So therefore, it is yellow. It is not finished. More work is needed. And then finally, red. This means you have lack of agreement on, or lack of understanding of the incentives, the plan, or how we're going to operate in some key way. In other words, we may have just been introduced. We may be checking each other out about whether you can be my supplier, whether you be my finisher or manufacturer, or you may be interested in a job that I need to fill. But I haven't really worked through all of these elements. Now, what's critical about these colors is they stand out. They allow you to see in a visual way whether you're making progress, moving from red to yellow, yellow to green in your project. There's other ways you can do this. You could use Gantt charts and Microsoft Project, but good luck communicating that to someone in one page. We have found that a one-page method of saying, this is the plan, these are the collaborations, and these are the activities, summarized, is the best way to bring to management, to funders and other groups where you're going. Now, the one page will have to be backed up by many pages of detail, often describing that this is real, these agreements. But telling someone that we have a real problem, we've got to fix it, by red color on a single page says, I need to focus, I need to get my work done. It's one of the best ways to get bosses to move when they see that they can move the red dot to yellow to green if they make the calls or sign the agreement. So the way we work a roadmap is kind of interesting. First, we think about their activities in terms of cost and complexity on this y-axis. Things that cost more are always more complex. Things that are complex may not be really costly, but they take more time, and thus time is money. We start with an initiation day or time. This is where we are currently. Maybe it's our current market situation and we want to grow to a much new, larger market. What are the critical path steps? We then list those moving from the current market state to then milestone 1. We then list the other current critical path steps and risk reduction strategies to go from milestone 1 all the way to milestone 2. And then we list again the critical path steps and risk reduction strategies to move from milestone 2 all the way to our goal. And it's then all linked on, you see, a timeline on this x-axis. So we know when we're starting, we know when we want to finish, and we can change these numbers because really they're in PowerPoint. It's just about editing. But by watching the dates change, we know if we're slipping or if we know if we're on time or ahead of schedule. So again, each point is illustrated by now a vertical set of steps and risk reduction activities we're taking. So what do you think? What does that look like? Well, it kind of looks like this. We choose, let's say, we need to get new suppliers because our product manufacturing is slow. We need an advisor to find the right supplier who will get the products we need to build our final product more rapidly. We do need to build our web, but notice it's a want to have, not a must have. And you say, how do I know that? Well, at the bottom, we can characterize by stippling of the lines. If it's stippled, very small stipples, it's a, yeah, I'd like to have that. It's not on the critical path. If it is dotted, it's more important, but still not on the critical path. But if it's a priority action, a critical path action, it is a solid line, and I must get that done. So I can even communicate what's on the critical path versus a regular step using this strategy. And again, these actions can now fill up a narrative to say, going from this point to the next point, these relationships and these activities. We then move this forward, other activities that may be involved. Again, we talked about financing. It's more costly and complex, so it fits higher onto the schedule. I have to pay more time generally, and I have to give away possible collateral or equity for that financing. Getting a co-innovation partner may be important and costly because they have to invest in their R&D to help you solve another problem. Social media, that's much simpler. You may be able to get a part-time employee, you may be able to get a student, you may be able to have someone who has some experience, just put a little bit of time to get that started. So it fits down lower on the priority ranking. And again, we're picturing financing as critical path. This continues with other types of activities. You know, as I mentioned, we need to get a manufacturing partnership. These are always complex and expensive because you have to pay often up front, you have to organize supply chain, you have to have quality control, you have to have timelines, and this is a very difficult partnership. You may have adoption chain partnerships where you need to build a relationship to put your product into a CVS or a Walmart or into another local brand store. This is important to get maximum sales, but again, it takes time, it takes a relationship to be built. This is always complex. Now, other activities such as expanding your physical building, co-innovation partnerships or suppliers, sometimes those are really necessary to be done and full bore and they're on your critical path, and sometimes they're not. Again, another set of activities could include a second round of financing. Notice that you may need to finance more to move, once you have the manufactured product, in co-adoption chain partnership. Again, having a delivery intermediary may not be critical path because you could use several local companies, UPS, regular mail, FedEx. So there could be several choices. In other words, you can model virtually any relationship in any step using this piece where you have steps listed on a timeline and then you have these activities that are present in a vertical way communicating cost and complexity and priority. All right, now how does the semaphore work? Well, we then fill in this with what has been done. And shockingly, simpler things such as sometimes advisor relationships and supplier relationships may be quick to be done. They may be critical path, but you know have a lead, you have the relationship, and so green means I've satisfied the 4 elements of agreement and I can move forward. But maybe I'm only getting a quote on the web developer. So even though it is not critical path, I hit it as yellow. And notice that then my action point is only yellow. Even though I have other green elements, it cannot be really fully ready because of the yellow. Likewise, if I've not completed my financing, as I show here, it is in red. I may have a co-adoption partner, I may have a social media strategist, but my milestone is still red. It cannot be green, it cannot be yellow because I have a red dot. I'm only talking to the banks. I don't have agreement, I don't have a term sheet available. And likewise, you see how the other dots can be green and yellow. But you'll notice that once you get a yellow dot, nothing can be green on the bottom because again, you're being held up by this step. you must solve it to turn green or abandon that step. This communicates the importance of pieces to move the project along. If you have a red spot because of the financing, notice the rest of the spots, even though you have lots of really good agreement here, it's still red because you don't have the financing required back here, which allows the leadership of your company to go, wow, that is critical path. I need to solve that problem and I need to solve it now to move the entire project forward. So in this one page, you can visualize steps and readiness of those steps. It also focuses people's attention on where they can change progress the most. All right, let's do a discussion example. Cleaning company. Now its current market is focused on families who make over $120,000 a year. It's a very highly competitive marketplace with 10 other companies in that town focused on that same market. There's about a 20% turnover rate of customers, so it's pretty high. They can retain quite a few of their customers, but they need to work on making this better. So they need a new service to increase the stickiness, the fact that people want to stay with them and not just look for lower price options. To do this, they need to first think of their assets. Well, they've been in the business for 10 years. They have a 4.5 rating on Yelp. This is strong. So social media, referrals, and representation is very strong in their community. But again, stickiness is an issue. They have 2 older trucks that are paid off, that carry crews around, and 2 newer trucks that are 80% paid off. They have 4 full-time employees and 4 part-time employees. In spite of the Yelp ratings, they have a very poor web and social presence. They realize that a lot of the competitors they have improved, more visual, more exciting websites, and this may be a way they can draw more people in through a new front door, not just their physical front door, but through their website front door and new sales representation through social media. So what are their next steps to really capture an opportunity to create more stickiness? After a lot of work, let's say that you are doing, they did the same work and they said, look, if we can offer carpet cleaning and tile steam cleaning to our services, this will differentiate us. We're not just a easy cleaning company, we offer a value add that people will want, not just houses, but also businesses. This is a chance to increase our profits 10% per hour. This is a very big deal. So this allows them to move quickly, but also add more value. But they need to make sure they modify their trucks for carpet cleaning and steaming. To do that, they need a loan to modify the trucks. Now, their target clients really are focused on referrals only, so they want to move into this web and social media based strategy. They also want to build a partnership with new home sales for staging. So they want to get a realtor to bring them into all these really nice homes around the community, clean the tile, clean the carpet, clean the house for staging. They think this could be a new customer opportunity. They're moving into an upsell strategy with the idea of carpet cleaning and steaming, but now they're thinking about realty and cleaning before showing as a new market opportunity. So they need to redo the web to describe these new services and use social media to amplify the messages and to get them actually even represented among FSBOs or owners selling their homes outside of realtors. That's a strategy. This is their means of what they did during Small Business Accelerate in a previous world. So how does this work for them? Well, as an example of interim goal, we talked about this before, that they need to pay off 2 trucks so they can be used as collateral for a loan that they need. We didn't tell you why they needed the loan. They needed it for new equipment to modify their existing trucks so they could be available for carpet and steam cleaning. We talked about the specificity of the goal. We talked about the measurability of the goal. We talked about the fact it was achievable and they have a budget plan for this. We talked about the fact that it was results focused, and finally it was time bound. Now we're going to take this goal and we're going to put it in the middle of a big plan that you to create more stickiness to the existing market and expand to a new market, much like what you're thinking to do as part of Small Business Accelerate. So we populate the roadmap. We argue that they first start with this idea of a preparation phase. This is getting everything in place so they can get the loan acquired. They can then launch this new service of cleaning and steaming in homes, especially through their own existing customers or word of mouth referrals. And then they do to a broader launch, which involves the website, social media strategy, but most importantly, this idea of linking into showing of homes, that they can show the homes more effectively if everything is clean and they offer a turnkey solution. So let's fill it in. Well, first goal, they need truck titles. They need a financing plan. They need a web redesign, and they need a source for their new equipment. They then looked at the loan acquisition. It involves this very expensive, time-consuming piece called financing to get that loan. They need to then purchase the equipment and then building a social media marketing strategy. They're going to have to modify the trucks. They're going to have to build a partnership with a staging partner, someone who works with the realtors to be able to bring them in as the pre-cleaning service. They need to train the team how to use this new equipment, how to use and provide the right services. They need then to launch their online marketing strategy and then get a cleaning supplier for new products to clean not just surfaces, but carpets as well as the tile. Finally, they need a major realty partner. This gets them involved in many actual homes in a given year. So this becomes a channel through which they can have many sales. They need an office cleaning partnership, they think. So it's not just cleaning homes, they can clean offices as well. So this is two new markets they're looking to pursue at the same time. Maybe that's wise, maybe it's not, but this gives them a way into homes and to offices. And finally, they need new team members to run the trucks and run the process. Let's watch them go through this process now. Notice that not every piece is on critical path. Some of them have stippled lines. Critical path items are shown in the dark lines. And then costs and complexity and time, everything goes up. Again, modifying a truck is much more time-consuming and risky than dealing with just getting cleaning supplies, which you may be able to get from many different sources. All right, November 2020, they start the project. Note that they don't have the truck titles, so guess what? It's red. They're making progress on a financing plan, web redesign, and new equipment sourcing. They're having the discussions. Maybe they have proposals on board. Everything else is red because they're just starting out in their project. But by January, they've made significant progress. They signed 2 deals. One is on the web redesign strategy, and the second is getting the new equipment source. They know they can do it. They now have a draft financing plan they think they could present to a bank. They've talked it over with advisors, and they have their strategy to get the truck titles because they wanted in January to submit the materials, the payments, so they could get the truck titles back to them. And once they get the truck titles, they take it to the financing group. And notice that the financing is still red, but they've made, again, process for finding equipment purchase. They may have found that, of course, through this relation. And then they have a social media strategy that coming along with the web redesign, this came immediately with them. They've now made partnerships by having discussions with staging partners, team training, and online marketing. Already found a source for cleaning supplies. So they've really made some progress across the board. Notice they don't start, they start here, but they work across their plan, not waiting for this to turn green before they move to the next step. I know you know that, but that's obvious. We multitask. But one of the critical things they find is the partnerships they're looking for homes and offices aren't there. All right, now in April, the cool thing is they got their truck title, their plan, and they went to the bank, and they got approval within a month or so for that new loan. Woohoo! That's a big deal. This turns the preparation phase green. We've solved all these problems. Now we're moving on. Notice that everything over here is sort of in the same position. We've not solved the modifications yet, but we do have the way to go. We're waiting now to get that equipment but we had to have the financing to buy the equipment to do the modification. So in June, though, this is exciting. They got the money, they bought the equipment, then they began the modifications. The modifications only took 1 month, and so they began building this out. They found a staging partner. It went from just a relationship of conversation to actually a partnership. They're going to rep them in front of realtors and other groups. This is what we can do. We've taken these modified trucks and we've trained the team that we have, these 8 people, 4 full-time, 4 part-time, and how to use it. We've got our cleaning supplies, and we've started an online marketing campaign. The website, social media presence, we started back in these steps. We've got the loan, it's green, woohoo! And we've been able to build out and launch a new service. We have the website, we have the referrals, we have the team. We can go to our homes of our current customers and start cleaning today. So differentiation is occurring. New revenue is occurring. We've now built out this time, and hopefully the new revenue that they've projected from this new service launch will pay back that loan with extra money. This is exciting. Now, in the midst of all these exciting moves, notice what's going on over here. They've been able to solve the office cleaning partner. They found 2 different buildings which will contract with them to clean their carpets and their tiles. This is fantastic. This means they don't have to go from house to house to house wasting time in a truck. They can now go in and clean quickly, and it's more efficient, and they make more money and more profit per visit. Fantastic. But they have not found a realtor partner. In spite of the fact they have a staging partner, no realtor is ready to buy in with them. Bummer. They've now set out to hire new people. They put it out on Indeed, and they're looking for new people. Well, September comes around. Notice the difference here. We need to be moving. And in June, we have still a red button. We still have not moved on the realtor. So what they began to do by September is say, we need to modify our plan. Instead of going to realtors, we need to go to where our customers aggregate. And they happen to aggregate in a country club that's in the town. This is largely populated by people of their segment, $120,000 a year or more. And this allows them to go and find a new channel for where their customers aggregate. So they're starting a new plan in September. They worked the realty piece. They already began in those buildings. They began cleaning in the homes and using their existing customers and referrals. This is going well, but that new idea of going to new homes or FSBOs just did not work out. So they pivoted. They came up with a new goal, a new strategy, and a new partnership. By November, it's exciting for them because they were able to move one more step. Indeed, the country club liked the idea. They allowed them to do their own country club cleaning. After seeing the cleaning in the country club, they were then able to rep the service to their members. So now they aggregate those members in this country club, allowing them to use the same per home strategy that's going on over here. So now they have not been able to move to the empty home strategy. They go to the lived-in home strategy, and is an extension, is an adjacent market from where they were. This is their current market, and they moved into the adjacent market. Now the exciting thing is they did achieve a new market penetration with office cleaning. This is really good. And they've been able to then bring on their new team members to then be able to have the broader launch of their product throughout the offices and into the new homes of people they found through the country club relationship. I hope that this is very helpful to see how the process moves and changes. This is one of the ways that a single page can allow you to see where you have problems and when you need to pivot. When you need action, draw attention of the entire company to solve a problem. So, session number 9, your homework. Guess what you're going to do? You're going to build a roadmap just like our cleaning company did. That's what you need to begin doing. To do that, yep, a lot of steps, because we're now pulling together everything from Regional Accelerate. We start with key business tasks and steps, the critical path. We then note interim milestones, progress. Okay? We then identify the collaborations we need, the deals we need to do to make sure we're moving the project forward. We identify key funding and other types of resources we need to get from outside sources. We estimate the cost and complexity of each one of these relationships and interim milestones. This allows us to arrange them hierarchically from most complex, most costly, to simplest and least costly. So we then organize our timeline, and then we then use multiple steps to take a copy and follow how things are moving. We note each step, each collaborator, and each funding event with an empty circle. The height of that circle and the line corresponding related to the cost and complexity, the height, and if it's a solid line, it's critical path. If it's important but not critical, it's basically a dashed line. If it's a nice to have, it's a dotted line. This communicates actually what the priority of the action is and also the cost and complexity. We then fill in the circles to represent the degree of completion based on these rules of the semaphore. Again, agreement across sociological, financial, operational, and legal means boom, it's done. We've got the deal in place, or we have launched that relationship, finished that part of the project. Yellow, this is partial alignment, or we're in the process of doing it, but we've started the discussion. And then, of course, red at the bottom means that we may have been introduced, we may be interested, but we really don't have a shape of the project operational plan. We don't have a shape and cost structure of what that's going to look like. We then take this simple model, again, an XY axis, cost and complexity on the Y, time on the X, and then the key steps we have along the way. We highlight the key steps, milestones with their own circles along that line, putting a start date and an end date and interim dates along the way. And then we then pop it up with critical path steps or risk reduction strategies we need to make sure that we get each one of those milestones accomplished. We then can copy and paste that and monitor progress every month. We will not just start working on this piece and once it's fully done, we start to the next. We don't work in this sequential strategy. We work across this trying to make progress as fast as we can to move the project forward. And some elements may stall early, some elements may be delayed late, but that's where the colors allow us to know where our delays and problems are occurring. And by keeping it on one page per reporting period, we can look at it and see where we are and what we need to focus for the next reporting period. By comparing reporting periods, we note progress, we note movement, or we note stagnation, and maybe the need to pivot and change strategies, or put more resources to get the deal from red to green. Well, there we go. We have moved from just goals and a plan to creating a roadmap, a way to look at our process of growing our current market, expanding to adjacent markets, and then moving further into new marketplaces, implementing our sales strategy, linking in our outreach and operations pieces into our goals and plan. We do this all through the roadmap. Everything we've done before feeds in to the roadmap. So you're working on the important things, you're working on the priority things, and you can report it in one page per reporting period and compare them and know what's working, what's not, and put the resources or the creativity to pivot around those key elements. I know this is a little bit longer session, but I hope that this will be a very good example. Go back and review the cleaning story. Think about how it can apply to what you were doing. We'll be back next week with our final Small Business Accelerate session, where we'll be discussing pitching for partnerships. And this is, of course, how we end, how we take the entirety of our strategy and we pitch for people to join us in our journey, to advise us, to fund us, to purchase from us, to join us to provide services. We need help, we need them, we need to have an effective message. Thank you very much, and see you next week with Small Business Accelerate.